Welcome to the Goldenberg Destiny Project, episode 13. After Avram spent many years in Haran, disseminating knowledge about God to all the people there and gathering many followers, God came to him in a prophecy and he told him, Lech lecha ma'artzecha me'ladzecha m'beis avicha la'aretz asher ereka. Leave your land and your birthplace, the home of your ancestors, and go to the land that I will show you. Ve'escha l'goy godol, I will make you into a great nation. Now, he didn't tell him where he's going. He didn't tell him. He just told him that you continue your journey. Avram had been on a long journey from Ur to Haran, and he continued his journey, putting more distance between himself and Ur until he reached the land of Canaan. And then, when he reached the land of Canaan, even after he reached the land of Canaan, God still didn't tell it to him. But when he came to Vayavar Avram Eretz ad Makom Shechem, he came to Shechem. Vayera Hashem al Avram, Hashem appeared to him. God appeared to Avram, and he told him, "Zaracha etei nesoros hazois. I will give this land to your descendants." Why didn't he tell him right away? Rashi says, because he wanted him to be excited, to have anticipation, to make him feel very excited about this land that he's going to get. He doesn't yet know which one it is. He's excited, he's going, and this is what God wanted. He wanted him to really enjoy and feel the feeling of anticipation. Ur is right here at the bottom of Mesopotamia, on the Persian Gulf, and Avram traveled north into Syria. Haran is in Syria, and then he continued down into Canaan. This is Canaan right here. The way to travel from Mesopotamia to Canaan is to go north, then turn around and go south. You really, by the crow flies, you could go west. But over here, you have the great Arabian desert, the Syrian desert, and it's not really a place that it's easy to cross. So you go through the inhabited, civilized areas, north, and then you turn around and come down into Canaan. Now, this is a great gift that God gave to Avram, the gift of the land of Canaan. There's a tremendous emphasis throughout the story of the Avos, with Avram himself many times, and Yitzchak and Yaakov. Tremendous emphasis on the land. What is the great emphasis on the land? God told them that he would be a great nation. Great nations arise from a homeland. All great nations have homelands. So once God told them that he would be a great nation, it's understood that there would be a homeland. Where's the homeland going to be? We'll find out where it's going to be, but why this particular place? There's tremendous emphasis on it. What is so special about Canaan? So, you would say that it's a beautiful, beautiful country. It has mountains, it has lush valleys, it has a long coastline of white beaches, it has pastures and orchards and farmlands, and it's really, really a very good place. But there are other good places in the world. And if you really think about it, it also has tremendous drawbacks. What is the drawback? If you look at the globe, you'll see that Israel is at the very center of the great landmass of the world, which is Asia, Europe, Africa. And every time that there was a clash of empires, they always have to go through Israel. Israel has been a battlefield for thousands of years. It was invaded by Egyptians, Assyrians, Babylonians, Greeks, Romans, Arabs, Turks, British, constantly, everybody fights over Israel because of its strategic location at the very center of the great landmass of the world. Everybody fights over it. And there's so much bloodshed has happened in Israel. So it's not exactly the safest place to build a great nation. I mean, maybe we would have been better off if we had gone to Hawaii or Australia. But so what exactly is it about Israel that makes it so great and so important? Obviously, it is the holiness, the Kedusha of Israel, because that is the place where the Beis Hamikdash would stand. That is the place of the Shekhinah, the divine presence will rest in Israel. So therefore, Israel has a special holiness. So what makes it special is its holiness, not its material features. I mean, it is a land flowing with milk and honey, because if that's where the Shekhinah rests, then it should be a good place. It should be beautiful, and should be rich. But that is not what is and was special about Canaan. It was that it was holy. It was the place where the Shekhinah would rest. Why does the Shekhinah have to rest there? Why can't the Shekhinah be somewhere else? Wherever the Shekhinah would be, it would be holy. In the end of Sefer Vayikra, there's the Toichacha, where the Jewish people were told that if they would obey the commandments of God, if they would follow the Torah, then they would have a really good life. But if not, it's going to be trouble, and they're going to be attacked and persecuted, and eventually they would be driven from the land. And the pasuk says, "I will scatter you among the goyim, I'll scatter you among the nations of the world, and I will unsheath a sword against you. Your land will be desolate. Your cities will be destroyed. Oz tirza haaretz es shapsoisel kol yimei shana." Then the land will be appeased for the shemitah that you didn't do. That means that every 7th year you have to leave the land fallow. So then, after you get driven out, then the land will be appeased for all the shemitah years that you didn't do. Now, why single out this particular thing? I mean, before we're not told anything about Shemitah in particular, but over here, after we're driven out of the land, then the land will be appeased and it will lie fallow. You didn't let it lie fallow during the time you were there. Now the land will be appeased, it will lie fallow. It seems to be as if the land has a personality, that the land is appeased. What does that have to do with the land? The land will be appeased. It has a personality. And you see the same thing in Parshas Achrei Mos. V'lo yisoki eretz eschem b'tamachem oiso kasher koas hagoyah shel pneichem. The land will not spit you out just as it spit out the nations that lived there before you. Again, we're talking about the land as if it has a personality. Now, obviously, the land is a doimim, it has no life, but it means that God will spit you out of the land because of the land. It has something to do with the land. The land doesn't have consciousness, it doesn't spit people out, but it's because of the land. The land will not tolerate you, it will spit you out. What does this mean? Again, the land needs to be appeased because it didn't lie fallow. The land, if you misbehave when you're living in the land, it will spit you out. In what way does the land have a personality? Let's talk about the place of the Shekhinah. The place where the Shekhinah rests, it's in the Beis Hamikdash in Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is very different from other capital cities. It's up in the mountains. It's off the beaten track. The main thoroughfares go along the coast, and here you have to go up into the mountains to come to Yerushalayim. Most major cities in the world are situated on a great river, because the river allows transportation and bringing in products. Most major cities are on a great river. Yerushalayim is not on a river. There's no river up there. So why Yerushalayim? Why is Yerushalayim chosen when it's so different from other major cities? The Gemara says in Kedushin, the Beis HaMikdash is higher than the rest of Eretz Yisrael. It's the highest point in the land of Israel. It's up in the mountains. It's on the highest mountain in Israel. It's the highest point in the mountain of Israel. So now you understand why the Beis HaMikdash has to be in Yerushalayim, because that's the highest point, because the purpose of the city of Yerushalayim is not to be a commercial center. The purpose of it is to be the place where the Beis HaMikdash sits. It sits on top of the mountain in Yerushalayim. That is the appropriate place where all of the country looks up to it, and you go there, you have to go up. It's at the highest point. That is the proper place to put a Beis HaMikdash. The Gemara says that Eretz Yisrael Gevaya Mekol HaAratzos. The land of Israel is higher than all the lands of the world. How is Israel higher than all the lands? There are very great mountain ranges in the world. You have the Himalayas, you have the Alps, you have the Andes, you have the Pyrenees, many tall mountains, much higher than any mountain in Canaan, in Eretz Yisrael. So how is Eretz Yisrael the highest of all the lands? So the truth is that, how do you measure high? Elevation above sea level. Then of course, if it's above sea level, that's the way you measure high. Then the Himalayas, Mount Everest is way higher. Is it the North Pole or the South Pole? No, that's not how you measure it. So what makes the place high? It is the top of the world. What is the top of the world? Any place could be the top of the world. If you take the globe and you tip it on its side, then, like this, then Israel is on top of the world. So when you look at it this way, so the Gemara is saying the top of the world is here in Canaan, in Israel. That is the top of the world. And if that is the top of the world, then this is the place where the Beis HaMikdash has to be. It's on top of the top of Israel, which is on top of the world. So the Beis HaMikdash in Yerushalayim is at the highest point in the entire world, and that is where it has to be. Why is that where it has to be? Why is that, you could tip the globe anyway, and any place could be the top of the world. Why is Israel the top of the world? The Beis HaMikdash and the Kodesh Kodeshim of the Beis HaMikdash, there is a stone called the Even Shesiyah. That means the foundation stone. That means that God, when He created the world, He started with one rock, and the rest of the world grew out of that rock. Everything was created from that rock. That was the foundation, the beginning. So that is considered the top of the world. So if you look at the globe, then you have this great landmass. It came from the Even Shesiyah, and all the land of the world was one big landmass. And if you look at South America, and look how it fits exactly into the Horn of Africa, exactly, as if it was there and it left. So I'm not the first one that noticed that South America fits into Africa. So the geologists say that, where everything happened by itself, so they came up with something called continental drift, where actually it was here, and then it split off, and it drifted away across the ocean until it landed here. I don't think it makes much sense how whole continents, North America also fits in, and Africa fits into the Caribbean. Everything looks very clearly to have been one landmass. Now, continental drift is really, It's not worth talking about. So really what happened was that God created the entire world. He created one huge landmass, and then he split off different parts, continents, Australia, islands, but all came from one landmass. And that landmass came from the Even Shesiyah, from the foundation stone. And that foundation stone is the top of the world. The foundation stone and the rest of the world came below it, not above it. I mean, what's below and above? So God decided that that this part of the foundation stone of the Even Shesiyah is the top, and this part is the bottom, and the rest of the world was made at the bottom. So therefore, the Even Shesiyah is the highest point of the entire globe, because that is from where the entire globe derived. Okay, so now we understand that the Even Shesiyah, which is the place of the Kodesh Kodeshim, that is the holiest place in the world. That is where the Shekhinah would rest, in that point. Now, the Mishnah says in Kalim that there are 10 levels of Kedusha, 10 levels of holiness. It starts from the Kodesh Kodeshim, the Holy of Holies, and it radiates outward in descending level of Kedusha. You have the Kodesh Kodeshim, then you have the Heichal, which is the sanctuary, which is, the Kodesh Kodeshim is in the sanctuary, but it's in the back of the sanctuary. The whole sanctuary is the next level, then the Azora of the Kohanim, the Azora of the Israelim, the Noshim, the Temple Mount is something, and then you have Gevulin. Gevulin means the outlying areas of Israel. Well, I want to suggest everything is part of the Beis HaMikdash. Not only the Kodesh Kodeshim, the Ezras Noshim, the Harabayas, the city of Yerushalayim, the walled city of Yerushalayim each one has its own level, and so, for instance, you could eat the meat of a shlamim in Yerushalayim because it has a high level of Kedusha. You go out of Yerushalayim, you can't. So, but everything radiates from the Kodesh Kodeshim. Everything in the entire land of Israel is part of the Beis HaMikdash at different levels of Kedusha, different levels of holiness. There's a Rashi in Ekev, in the second part of Kriya Shema, V'hoya Mishamaya, that if you obey, if you listen to the Torah, then the land will give its produce and everything. But if you don't, V'acharav Hashem b'chem, Hashem will get angry with you, and the heavens won't give their rain, and the land won't produce its crops. V'avadatem meherom al ha'aretz ha'toiva, asher you'll be driven from the land. V'samtem es dvora eila al levavchem, and you should put these words on your heart. So the way the order of the pasuk is that first we're told we're driven out of the land, and then we're told that we should place on our hearts the words of the mitzvahs. So Rashi understands from this, based on a medrash, I'm sure, that af lacha shetiglu, that even after you're driven from the land, you should still do mitzvahs. That means not only when you're in the land, when you're outside the land, you should also do mitzvahs. Hanichot tefillin, put on tefillin, hasu mezuzos, put mezuzos on your doors, kedei sheyu lachem chadoshim kishetachzru. The reason why you have to do mitzvahs outside of Eretz Yisrael is because when you come back eventually, it won't be something new. You'll be used to doing them, and when you come back, you'll be able to do them. It's not going to be something new. This is in Rashi, in Pashas Ekev. It's more famous in the name of the Ramban. Ramban says this in Achrimo, it's not the place, but it's really a Rashi. Rashi says it right here. So how do we understand this, that the mitzvahs are only done in Eretz Yisrael and not out of Eretz Yisrael? So of course, this doesn't mean that Isurim will not, that means that when you go out of Eretz Yisrael, you can't steal, you can't rob, you can't kill. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't make a makkah on your roof to make sure nobody falls off. It doesn't mean that. It means the ritual mitzvahs, the observances that are ritual, putting on film, mezuzah, eating matzah, sitting in a sukkah, all the ritual mitzvahs, those are meant to be done in Eretz Yisrael and not out of Eretz Yisrael. The reason why we do them out of Eretz Yisrael, and we have, it's not only that we should be used to it, we have the same obligation to do it out of Eretz Yisrael as we do in Eretz Yisrael. But the reason why that obligation extends out also is because when we come back, we should know how to do these things. We shouldn't be new. So how do we understand this? So the reason, I think, is, as I was just saying, that the entire Eretz Yisrael is a part of the Beis HaMikdash. Everything is part of the Beis HaMikdash. Everything radiates from the Kodesh Kodashim in different levels. So in the Beis HaMikdash, you have Kohanim, and they do Avodah, and they bring Korbanos, and whatever they do, that's their Avodah. In the rest of Eretz Yisrael, in Gevulin, in the rest of Eretz Yisrael, there's also Avodah. But Avodah is for every person, not only Kohanim, everybody. The Avodah is the mitzvahs, the rituals, the ones that we do, putting on film, putting mezuzahs, sitting in the sukkah, eating matzah. All of these are Avodas Beis HaMikdash. They are the Avodah as part of the extended Beis HaMikdash. That's what the pasuk says, that we will be Mamleches Kohanim, a kingdom of priests. Because all of us are priests. All of us. Not only the Kohanim in the Beis HaMikdash. We all have different Avodas. The Kohanim in the Beis HaMikdash have their Avodah, which is only for Kohanim. We, in the rest of Eretz Yisrael, have other Avodah, which extends to Kohanim, Leviim, and Yisraelim. We have to do the mitzvahs. That's what we are doing. These are all Avodah. Avodah has to take place in a holy place. And Eretz Yisrael is the 10th level of Kedusha, the lowest level, but it is still has the level of Kedusha that radiates from the base Kodesh Kodashim. That is what we are doing. So out of Eretz Yisrael, you wouldn't do mitzvahs, because you can't do avodah in a place that's not holy, in a place that doesn't have Kedusha. However, we still have to do the mitzvahs in America and Europe. Why? Because when we come back to Yisrael eventually, we should be proficient in doing mitzvahs. But the mitzvahs are avodah. They are our avodah. The Kohanim that did avodah in the Beis HaMikdash, they had a mishmar, they had like different watches, like different groups of Kohanim used to have a term, they used to go there for a specific amount of time, and they were there and they did all the avodah, then they left and different Kohanim came in and they did the avodah. When the Kohen was on duty in the Beis HaMikdash, where did he sleep? He slept in the Beis HaMikdash. There was place in the Beis HaMikdash for the Kohen to sleep. Where did he eat? Not the Karbanas. Where did he have breakfast? Where did he have a coffee? In the Beis HaMikdash. There was a place, there was an accommodation for the Kohanim where they could live and take care of their own needs while they were doing the avodah in the Beis HaMikdash. Where did he go to the bathroom? He went in the Beis HaMikdash, in a place which was designated for that in the Beis HaMikdash, because he was doing avodah. So we have to accommodate him for his personal needs. What if a Kohen was not on duty? What if a Kohen, just came visit and he's not on duty? Could he sleep there? Could he eat there? Could he use it for his needs? Could he go to the bathroom in the Beis HaMikdash? Certainly not. Certainly not. If you're not doing the avodah, then you can't use the facilities that are there. The facilities are there to accommodate the people that are doing the avodah. Same applies to the entire Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is a place where you can plant crops and orchards, and you can build houses, and you could make money and support your family, but all that is an accommodation. You are there to do avodah. You are there to do the avodas Beis Hamikdash, which is in Gevulin, which is in the rest of Eretz Yisrael. And since you're there to do avodah, we can't tell you that you're going to come to Eretz Yisrael and put on your tefillin and mezuzah, and then you go to Lebanon and you're going to live in Lebanon. No, so therefore you are accommodated that you could live in Eretz Yisrael. You're allowed to live there. You're allowed to take care of your personal life, but you have to do avodah. That is the purpose. That is why you're there. You can't sell if you have a land in Eretz Yisrael, you can't sell it permanently. Why? Because the pasuk says, "Kiliyah Aretz." The land belongs to God. So Sepharno says that Hashemayim Shemayim L'Hashem V'Aretz Nasam Bnei Adam. The heavens belong to God. The land is given to people. It says that's land outside of Israel. The land in Israel was not given to people. The land of Israel still belongs to God. You're allowed to live there, but you can't go make yourself like a big owner and you're going to sell it forever. No, you sell it until Yovel. That's it. You can only sell it temporarily because you are there. Ger, it was a ger v'toishov. That's what you're doing in the land. You are not the owner, the permanent resident. No, this Eretz Yisrael is part of the Beis Hamikdash, and you're there to do avodah. What is the avodah? The mitzvahs, which are rituals, which are observances, which are not like for not to do chesed, you have to do out of Eretz Yisrael. Many things, tzedakah, you have to give out of Eretz Yisrael. Build the safety measures out of Eretz Yisrael. But things which are rituals of worship, which are tefillin, mezuzah, lulav, sukkah, matzah, all the things that we do that are rituals, those things have to be in Eretz Yisrael, and that is what your purpose is in being there. So therefore, and that's why we have Shemitah. Shemitah is not there to teach you to have bitachon, to have faith in Rabban Shloim, because then it would be out of Eretz Yisrael too. Why only in Eretz Yisrael need bitachon? But if you're living in France, you don't need bitachon. If you're living in the United States, you don't need bitachon. You need bitachon everywhere, but you don't have to leave your land fallow. That's not the main reason of Shemitah. The main reason of Shemitah is to impress upon you that this is not your land. You're only here as a resident. You're only here as a ker v'toishav. You're here to do avodah. It does not belong to you, and therefore, once out of 7 years, you have to step away and don't make believe that you are a true owner. That is the purpose. So that's us tirtza oris shapsaseh. The land will be appeased. Of course, the land has no feelings. The land, but the land requires you to leave. The reason why, if you don't do mitzvahs, if you don't do what the Torah demands of you, then the land requires that you leave because you're trespassing. You're in a holy zone. You're here, and if you're here, you have to do what's demanded of you. And if you don't, then you have to leave. The land demand. Then the land will go back to being fallow. That nobody is acting as an owner. That it's Eretz Shali. That's what's going to happen. That's what it means that the land will spit you out. The land will spit you out because you don't belong there. It's the land will spit you out. Of course, God will spit you out, but the land spits you out. When Nebuchadnezzar invaded Israel and he drove the Eden into exile, he drove the Jewish people into exile. It was the land spitting them out. Toki Eretz Eschem, the land spit them out. Nebuchadnezzar was the agent, but the land meaning that God was spitting them, was ejecting them because it was a violation of the kedusha of the land. That's why they had to be driven out. Nebuchadnezzar was just the agent, but the land was spitting them out. That is what it means. So therefore, when Avram was told that you will be a great nation, and he was also told that he would be given land, he understood what this meant. He understood that this meant he would be given a place of worship, a place of avodah, and the entire land would be that place. And that's what he was excited about. That's what Avram was excited about. Today, even though we were driven out, we're in Golos, today, millions and millions of Jewish people live in Israel. They live there. This is not the redemption. It is, in the 14th century, there was a war in Europe called the 100 Years' War. It lasted for 116 years, where England and France fought over control of the French throne. They didn't fight every day. They didn't fight every year. But it was one continuous war with periodic eruptions. That's what that was. Israel today is in a 75-year war. It's not that once in a while we have a war. It is one long war. And periodic eruptions, you have this war, you have that war, you have this intifada, that intifada, but we are in a long, long war. And we were allowed to return because it should be a safe haven for us. After what happened, with all the persecutions and the genocide that we were subjected to, so God, in His kindness, allowed us to return to Israel to have a safe haven. But it is not yet the time of redemption. Maybe, according to some people, it is close to the time of redemption, but the exile is not over. This is just a safe haven for us in the meantime, till the exile is over. What's going on in Israel now, with all the constant pressure from Hamas and Hezbollah and Iran, all of this, I think what's really going on is that there is an internal struggle in Israel, an internal struggle. On the one hand, there is a lot of indifference to God. People don't follow the Torah. They don't care about the Torah. Many don't believe in God. That's one part. And that part causes the land to want to spit them out. Because this is a holy place. It's a Makom Avodah. So the land wants to spit them out. On the other hand, there's a tremendous amount of Torah and mitzvahs and avodah going on in Eretz Yisrael, which militates against this. So really what's happening, I think, in Israel these days, the land is gagging on the Jewish people living there. On the one hand, it wants to spit them out. On the other hand, it cannot spit them out. So the land is gagging. Of course, we have to fight, and we have to, but I think we really have to fight on the spiritual level, the ruchnius. If Eretz Yisrael, if the land of Israel would acknowledge God, at least to a certain extent, if Shabbos and Yom Tov would be observed, I don't know what people do in their homes, but at least in public, the country should shut down on Shabbos and Yom Tov. Every door should have a mezuzah. Every door in Israel should have a mezuzah. Every man in Israel, at least sometime in his life, should put on tefillin. People should acknowledge that this is a place of avodah, and this is a place where at least we should do some avodah. Then that, I think, would be a tremendous improvement in the situation who are Hamas and who are Hezbollah and who are Iran? They're the Nebuchadnezzars of our time. They're the agents, but it's the land that's trying to spit us out. So if we would, I don't know if I can expect everybody in Eretz Yisrael to become from or Haredi or sit down and learn in the kollel, but at least some acknowledgement that this is a Makom Avodah and this is a place we have to acknowledge the presence of God. Thank you very much.